Hi, my name is Ben. Welcome to How English Works. These videos are not your typical grammar lessons. Here we don't do any drills, there's no charts, and certainly no memorization. Instead, I want to talk to you casually to help you understand English, how English actually works, the things that we say to mean things. And today we're going to talk about an interesting concept, or some words rather. And these words are ish, sorta, and esque. And there are more like this, but I want to talk about these specifically. So I like to think of these as modifier words, right? Because they modify something. They're not words themselves. They don't mean anything. Sorta doesn't really mean anything. But when you combine it with something else, it does have meaning. You modify the word, so I like to think of them as modifier words, right? So, why does this keep happening? The thing that I used to record just decided to not work. This is fine, because you can't see my right anymore. Yeah. What the heck, man? What are you doing? All right, we're back. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay. Anyways, so we could say that this system that I have to record sort of works. Sorta. And we can start with that one. Sorta, it actually is sort of, if you break it out to the actual parts, sort, that's soft. Sort of, but we just say sorta. And it means that something isn't fully to that thing. The actual word sort of doesn't make any sense. It would be sort of saying type of, but we've just completely reused changed the meaning rather. And so when you say something sort of works, it means that it partly works. It's like halfway working or 30% working or 70% working. It sort of works, but it doesn't fully work. And so you can think of that sort of as three different levels if you want, right? So it sort of works, or no, let's start with it fully works. Fully works. And then we have sort of works. And then we have doesn't work. Right? So these are sort of three different levels of how something can be. So fully means that it's all the way to the top, right? Sort of is in the middle, and then doesn't is at the bottom, right? Just doesn't work. And this word doesn't have to be works necessarily. It can be something like, what's another example? It's like sort of knows, right? To know, right? I sort of know what you're talking about. I totally know what you're talking about. I fully know what you're talking about. Or I don't know what you're talking about. And so the exact function of the other words changes a bit between different words, but sorta kind of stays the same. Kind is another similar word, by the way. It usually refers to something being a little unsure, and it's not quite negating it, right? So it's not like adding a doesn't, does not. But it's like a light version of that, right? It sort of works. It sort of means that. And it's sort of easy to understand, I guess, right? It can also be added to the end of a sentence just to make that sentence work. So for example, what's an example there? Just you can kind of just say sorta at the end. I got it done, sorta, right? At the end, it kind of weakens that sentence saying, yeah, I didn't really get it done, right? So I got it done, sorta. Or I recorded 5 episodes today, sorta. Actually, I recorded 5 and only 3 of them worked, or something like that, where it kind of weakens that initial statement. Kinda works almost exactly the same way, by the way. So sorta, kinda, sort of the same word. See there? There are little differences, so sorta the same word. Now, let's move on to the next one, which is ish. And actually functions quite similar, but it's usually used for something that we can count, or it's more about saying it's a close number, right? So for example, you could say that I have like 10-ish pens on my desk. That doesn't really make sense, but 10-ish would be like around 10. 10, 11, 12, 9, 8, something like that. Or, oh my God, it crashed again. Oh, it's because like the thing that I use to do this is like disconnecting. Oh, weird. Okay, that's strange. I get it. So it's not the program, it's the connection. I'll have to check the cable after this. But let's get this going again so that you can see what I'm writing. Ish is going to say when, like, around ish a number, usually. So, for example, when somebody invites you over, that you go, what time should I come? What time should I come to your house? And they go, come around 5-ish, right? So 5-ish is around 5 o'clock, right? Maybe it's 5:15 or 5:30, something like that, right? So it's around 5 o'clock. It's not always for time, though, right? You can modify another number, right? You should use, like in cooking, for example, you can say it needs about a half a teaspoon of salt-ish. It clarifies, doesn't need to be precise. That's the clarifying thing there. It doesn't have to be exactly half a teaspoon. It can be a little under, a little more. You don't have to measure. Again, like sort of, it can also be tacked on to the end of a sentence if you want to make it a little bit weaker, or make it a little less strong, right? So he was the best friend that I ever had, ish. That doesn't really make sense. That doesn't sound good. But what that would mean is like, he wasn't really the best friend that I ever had, but I want to say that, or something like that. It does work a lot better for numbers or things that you count or quantities of some kind, because it's more like saying around that amount. I've seen 20-ish movies in the past month. That's a really good example. 20-ish is like around 20. So that's ish. Again, I didn't really write much on here, but the last thing is esque. And you almost never see this written out. This is a thing that you usually hear spoken, and it's not that common. I use it fairly often, but it is not the most common thing in the world. But when esque is added on to something, it becomes it's describing, or it's comparing something to that other thing, right? So, ish can do the same thing, actually. Now I'm thinking about it. So I'm thinking of specifically something like professional, right? So if your friend says, hey, what's that English channel that you use to learn? And you go, oh, Ben's Language Lab. It's my favorite YouTube channel. I subscribe all the time. And then they say, oh, is it a professional channel? And you go, it's professional-ish or professional-esque, which is saying it's close to professional, but it's not all the way there. And that's the big thing. So professional-ish or professional-esque, ESQUE, saying that it's close to that thing. Another example, you can also say that it's like just a full-on thing, like a proper noun. So, for example, America, you could say like, you could compare somewhere to being like America-esque, right? Canada is sort of America-esque, right? It's very similar in a lot of ways to America, to the U.S. You can also use names, right? Especially if like somebody has if like a famous person, to just sort of describe that somebody looks like them or they act a bit like them or something like that. And so it's sort of comparing two things by saying this thing is close to that thing, but not really quite the same. A good example, actually, thinking again about this channel, is there's a channel similar to mine, but it's quite different, called Dreaming Spanish for Spanish learners. And they make videos with a big team and editing and all these different things. And so you might say that Ben's Language Lab is Dreaming Spanish-esque, but it's not the same. They're quite different, but there's like similar things. We both make videos for learning a specific language, yada, yada, yada. And so that's how you generally use esque and ish and what it means. I'll probably say esque, especially on the podcast, And so if you want to hear good uses of these, I definitely use all of these words all the time. And so that's how English works. That's how we use ish, sorta, and esque. And I hope that this helped you. That's all that I got for today. I don't really have anything else to say, but I'm curious to know if you've heard these words in interesting places. Let me know down in the comments below. And if you have a question about how English works, please make sure to put it down in the comments. I want to respond to questions that actual people have and are wondering what something means in English. And that's the kind of thing I want to talk about. But that's everything from me for today. Sorry about the technical issues. I don't know what happened, and I'll see you again in another video. Bye-bye.